No, thank you for finding the time to chat with me briefly. I appreciate you'll be
Pleasure.
very, very busy at the moment. I just wanted to update our viewers on
Right.
yours and your colleagues' latest
The
findings.
I split my time between speaking and working.
Yeah, yeah, me too. But yeah, I just wanted just an update really regarding your latest findings, you and your colleagues with a scientific paper you just published regarding this new interstellar object. Could you just give us a brief overview of what your findings were, basically?
Yeah. 3I Atlas is the third interstellar object discovered on July 1st, 2025. And as soon as I read the details of the discovery, I realized that it's actually quite bright. And if it were a solid object, it had to be 20 kilometers in diameter to produce as much reflected sunlight as we see. And that seems to be a very large value. In fact, the previous interstellar objects, Oumuamua and Borisov, were in the hundreds of meters scale. And for every object that is 20 kilometers diameter, there should be, hundreds of thousands of objects that are in the hundreds of meters scale. So we haven't seen those, and therefore one possible resolution is that this object is also small, less than a kilometer in diameter. And what we are seeing is the reflection of sunlight from a cometary dust cloud around it. The problem is we don't see evidence for any gas, molecules, or atoms that produce spectral features in the observed data from 3I Atlas. And also the fuzz around it is relatively limited. The image of the object is just a little bit larger than the background stars that are point sources. But most interestingly, the trajectory of 3I Atlas is extremely rare because it comes within 5 degrees of the orbital plane of the Earth around the Sun. There is only a chance of 0.2% for it to come that well aligned with the plane where all the planets are orbiting the Sun. And it actually arrives closest to the Sun when the Earth is on the opposite side. So the Sun actually eclipses it. We can't observe it. And it moves in the opposite direction to the motion of the Earth around the Sun. So there is no way for us to send a rocket that will intercept it because the relative speed is of the order of 100 kilometers per second at that point, about 3 times larger than the maximum speed that our rockets can achieve. And we were wondering, as a result, with two colleagues, Adam Hibberd and Adam Kroll, whether it might be alien tech, because the trajectory appears to be very selective. It came from the direction of the center of the Milky Way galaxy, where it's very difficult to identify it at large distances relative to the background stars. That's why we discovered it only in July 2025, a few months before it will come closest to the sun on October 29th. But at this point, there is no way for us to intercept it. If we knew about it a year ago, then we could have designed the mission that would intercept it. And another unusual feature of the trajectory is that it comes extremely close to the inner planets other than the Earth. It comes close to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. If one takes the trajectory and just varies the arrival time, this is a coincidence at the level of 1 part in 20,000.
Whoa.
And therefore, it's possible that this one had a trajectory that was designed by an intelligent species. That would be consistent with the dark forest hypothesis as a solution to Fermi's paradox. Where is everybody?
Yeah.
One solution is that
Yeah.
there might be a lot of aliens out there. They were listening to us, but not transmitting any signal. And here they are coming on a reconnaissance mission that may actually arrive very close to Earth, because as they get closest to the sun, they may actually do a maneuver that would allow them to break and actually remain bound to the sun and visit us.
Wow.
And we won't be able to see that because the sun will block our view at that moment when this object comes closest to the sun. But
Mm.
the simplest assumption about the object is that it's a comet.
Mhm.
And in that case, within a month or two, we should be able to see a very clear cometary tail
Yeah.
because the object will get close to the sun, will get warmed up,
Mhm.
and at that point, it would be quite clear that it is a comet. And we will know that before it comes closest to the sun on the 29th of October, 2025.
Mm.
If, on the other hand, it's ambiguous whether it's a comet, and we don't see it
Mhm.
continuing on the opposite side of the sun after October 29th, then I think the stock market may crash.
Yeah. Yeah, a bit of panic setting in. I I guess, you're saying it's either a really rare comet with a rare trajectory, which I guess is going to happen, just the laws of probability, or it is uh, possible alien technology. In terms of what this technology could be, are you talking about a craft? And I know we talked about this before, that if aliens were going to make contact with us, very unlikely to send flesh and blood animals, aliens, whatever you want to call them. They're more likely to send AI or robotics of some sort. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, when you go on a date with someone from this earth, you can pretty much assume that they carry the DNA of life as we know it. But when you deal with a visitor from outer space, from another star, all bets are off.
Mm,
And our imagination is limited to our technologies.
mm,
It may represent technologies well beyond our abilities.
mm,
We should listen rather than speak. And I do believe that this is a security risk that was not attended to in the past.
mm,
A lot of people talk about existential risks from artificial intelligence,
mm,
from climate change,
mm,
from maybe an asteroid that will impact the Earth.
mm,
But nobody talks about the possibility that alien tech will
mm,
arrive here.
mm,
And we just don't know who lives in our neighborhood. And there needs to be an organization, presumably international, because they will not care how we split the territories on this earth. And we should all cooperate
mm,
in the spirit of science about how to respond to that. And that kind of an organization should have comet experts that will be able to tell us if it's natural.
mm,
In which case, I mean, I suggest having actually a scale similar to the Richter scale
mm,
used to alert about the risk from earthquakes.
mm,
So a zero on that scale would mean it's a comet, it's natural. A
mm,
10 on that scale would mean we see it maneuvering.
mm,
There is an engine there. It's actually definitely technological in origin.
mm,
And when it reaches a high value on this scale of how artificial an interstellar object is, then there needs to be policymakers deciding what to do next,
mm,
depending on its characteristics. And there need also to be psychologists in that organization because you need to communicate the message to the public without creating
mm,
panic. Because most citizens would feel vulnerable since governments cannot protect them from a threat in the sky. We feel much more confident about the government and the military when dealing with adversarial nations on Earth, but not with another civilization that may have capabilities well beyond ours. You know, the experience might be very similar to the Iranian air defense systems
mm,
when the B-2 bombers showed overhead.
mm. Wow. I mean, so basically, there's not much we can do apart from wait to find more data regarding
Yes, I
the
mean,
object.
like anything in life,
Mm,
and that's true also of risk assessment in the intelligence agencies. It must be based on as much data as possible,
mm,
rather than on speculations, opinions, and so forth. And
mm,
given the data we have, we will know what options we have to respond to that
mm,
with our technologies. and make a decision, a choice at that point.
Sure. I mean, do you think, for instance, President Trump has been briefed about this?
Not about this because it might be a comet.
Hmm.
I don't think on the scale of 0 to 10, I wouldn't assign a very high value at this time.
Sure.
I
Okay.
would just say it's interesting enough to collect as much data as possible. And one reason I wrote this paper was to encourage my colleagues, observers, to get as much data as possible to
Mhm.
prove this conjecture, this hypothesis wrong. Because, that would have saved a lot of time for the Vatican when it dismissed the idea of Galileo Galilei
Yeah.
and put him in house arrest. And only 350 years after he died in 1992, they admitted that Galileo was right. If, on the other hand, they wanted to prove him wrong by looking through telescopes, they would much more quickly realize that they're wrong.
Hmm. Thank you. And how is the Galileo project? Uh,
Speaking about Galileo,
yeah, absolutely.
we are constructing this summer
Hmm.
two new observatories, one in Pennsylvania, another one in Nevada. And we hope that by the end of the summer, we'll have data that allows us also to triangulate, to infer the distances of objects in the Earth's atmosphere. The reason that's interesting in the context of interstellar objects is because you could have a mothership
Mhm.
flying by and releasing probes, mini probes that visit planets. And in that case,
Hmm.
one might notice new activity in the atmosphere of the Earth after the passage of an interstellar object.
Right, that would be interesting, won't it? So, by most, the chances are it is just a comet, but we need to be prepared for future events. Is that basically?
Exactly.
Yeah,
If I
absolutely.
had to bet, I would say it's a comet.
Mhm.
However, the implications are huge if it's not.
Mm.
And it's in the spirit of Blaise Pascal, who had a wager about God. He said, well, God might exist or not, but the implications are huge if God exists. In the same spirit, if there is an interstellar object and there is a chance that it might be artificial, we need to find out the most we can about it because the implications would be huge.
Absolutely. But so it's going to track nearest Earth in November. Is that correct? Uh,
This object will arrive, 3i Atlas will arrive closest to the sun on October 29th. We won't be able to observe it during the month of October, but a fan wrote to me a text, said that he decided to trade options against the volatility of the stock market, VIX, with an expiration date of October 29th, 2025, because if it turns out to be technological in origin, this object will upset the markets.
and there's nothing we can do about it. There's absolutely nothing we can.
No, I mean, if they are much more sophisticated than we are, we should just relax. It's like the weather, there is not much you can change. But who knows how well equipped our
Sure.
visitors are. And it may well be that in this case, it's just a comet. This is most likely. But my point is, we should check each and every new interstellar object for the possibility that it might not be a rock. Because, it's just like looking at objects coming into our backyard from the street. Many of them might appear natural, like rocks, but every now and then you might see a tennis ball that was thrown by a neighbor.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's an interesting point that you made that we need, an international organization to be able to deal with this potential threat, which we don't have. And maybe that could unite us, and maybe science will lead the way because politicians can't do it. It's been proven.
Well,
You know?
politics often is engaged with conflicts on
Mm,
Earth in zero-sum games, fights over territories, over financial matters.
resources.
But when dealing with an outside threat, my hope is that all humans would recognize that we are all in the same boat
Mm.
and we share the same DNA
Yeah.
and we should cooperate And instead of just fighting with each other, we should work together. It's sort of like kids in a sandbox
Mm.
fighting with each other, and then looking at a car that comes along, and all of them are looking at it with awe, and perhaps feel some relationship to where they are, and work together to approach the coming car. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Avi. It's always fascinating talking with you, and we'll speak again, especially about the Galileo project. But let's hope that it is a comet. I mean,
Uh,
as much
I'm not
as it's,
sure. I'm not sure, if it's a very friendly
yeah,
visitor.
yeah,
I think it could only bring good to
mm,
Earth in the sense
absolutely,
of
yeah,
uniting humanity,
mm,
and perhaps providing a role model
mm.
for us better than many of the politicians we have.
That's a
One
possibility.
one reason I'm interested in finding a higher level of intelligence in interstellar space is because I don't often find it here on Earth.
Yeah, we keep looking, but yeah, we're not getting any results at the moment anyway.
Well, it's sort of like someone at a party that is disappointed by the practice of those that come to the party, and looking through the window, maybe a new guest will show up that will improve the situation.
Yeah.
That's my approach.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's much appreciated. And
My pleasure.
thank you, Avi.
As always. Bye bye.